Hi everyone, Simon Keeling here again at weatherweb.net. It is Wednesday the 30th of January and thanks again for coming along and watching. Remember, kept free of charge by the adverts you see around the screen here by you coming back to the site and using the site. That's what keeps us free of charge. Just wanted to give a little bit more information on the longer range outlook. I had a few messages from you since I released the earlier video talking about the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, and this is the forecast chart that we get from the Madden-Julian Oscillation. And basically the bit that we're interested in here is the green line that kind of flows through here. This is the forecast each day from the ECMWF model, and the Madden-Julian goes in phases. So here we've got phase 1, we've got phase 2, we've got 3 here, 4's under here, 5, 6, 7 and then 8, and it depends on what phase of the oscillation is in as to how weather conditions are. It gives you a good indicator as to how weather conditions are going to be developing. And what we look for is when it enters new phases. So, for example, as we get into phase 3 of the Madden-Julian Oscillation, that normally indicates that sort of 5-6 days down the road, conditions turn more into a westerly within North Atlantic Oscillation, becoming more positive, and it's that positive oscillation which blows through the winds from off the Atlantic and gives us fairly stormy westerly winds coming in from off the Atlantic. So by kind of identifying those phases, we can have an idea as to what the weather is likely to be doing. And it's just interesting, and what I was picking up on was that this period here where we go from phase 3 into phase 4, I'm just looking down at my notes here, so we go from phase 3 into phase 4. Once we enter phase 3, normally it's around about sort of 7, 8, well 5 or 6 days down the road that we start to pick up a strong NAO, and that's exactly what starts to develop around about the 22nd, 23rd of the month. So this is what's building up this opinion that the end of February goes into more unsettled conditions. Also notice what happens is that the black dots here, look, the day-to-day quite far apart in that spell, but look what happens. So you see how much more concentrated they become during phase 4, and that indicates that this spell of more unsettled wet and windy weather could last for some time into March. And at the moment I'm thinking around between the 6th and the 10th of March that we could be seeing this windy weather lasting until from about the 20th, 21st of February going through until about the 10th of March. So it's just interesting to see this because it gives you an idea as to where conditions are may well be heading. Now the Korean model as well, if we just look at what the Korean models come out with, these are the anomalies from 500 millibars for that as well. This is for the early part of March, and what it's doing is building the block here again, look, across the pole and extending it down into the Atlantic here. Now what that would do is build high pressure somewhere in here. We'd have quite a ridge here through the Atlantic and then down into a trough across Europe. So what this would mean is that we probably in Europe we may well find quite a block out towards the west with low pressure stuck out here, and with high pressure here that could well lead us into more of a cooler north and northwesterly flow according to the Korean model. I don't think this has quite got it though. I think what's going to happen is that there'll be a ridge in the Atlantic at this stage, but I think what this is hinting at is that the jet stream is actually across us here. Okay, so probably what we'd find is that there'll be a section of the jet that goes down into the Atlantic here, it digs down and it builds a trough down here. We'll also then find that splitting up. So, but then what you find is that on the southern edge of the high, the jet develops again, and it's through here that we find the strong winds come through. So I think with a little bit of manipulation into the Korean, that can be brought on side to this idea of quite a stormy beginning to March and quite a wet one as well, but fairly mild temperatures around or just above normal for the time of year. And if we look at where the CFS takes us, this is the CFS for the end of February. Twist your heads round and the British Isles is there, look, upside down, okay, but this too builds the heights up towards the north here. Remarkable consistency between the models at the moment, and brings low pressure down more southern areas. But I think again what this hints at is that we get the jet come across the Atlantic, it sinks down and probably develops part of a trough down here, but then we've got further jet that comes through the British Isles and brings this breakdown into more unsettled conditions from around the 20th, 21st of February. Now the CFS sees things like this as far as precipitation is concerned. This is February, and you can see how wet the CFS was trying to make the southern parts of the UK here and also much of France and Spain. And that's really the way it's shaping up at the moment, because if we've got a jet through here for most of the month, then of course it's going to shift the rainfall southwards and bring higher pressure in here, which would keep Scotland and Ireland generally on the drier side than normal for February, and that looks perfectly feasible. Interesting to note that for March it's got most of the country, look, under near normal conditions. A little bit of green just showing up there across the western parts of Scotland, look. So we could well find that this is hinting at this kind of westerly flow through here during March, and certainly that more unsettled spell of weather that could be on the way. But if we go back and have a look and see what happens in April, look, this is April, and just look, it's bringing in an area of drier weather across Ireland, Western Wales and Ireland, and making Scandinavia and much of these eastern parts of Europe wetter than normal. So what we may well find here, and what this is hinting at, is high pressure somewhere down here, which would effectively build a ridge through here. You'd have a ridge going down there, low pressure up here, and basically the more unsettled weather going into Europe. So, and I think that would be the position as of the beginning of April. So I think that's how things up to around about the 10th of April would be, and that would be from when? Well, kind of from about the 16th of March onwards. We probably would go into those sort of conditions. And then for May, well, at the moment things looking more unsettled for May, I'm afraid to say. Looks like the jet stream is back in, probably coming in through here somewhere. It brings wetter conditions down towards the south of the UK. So how wet? Well, I think probably relatively near normal conditions, but I do think May could be not unsettled, but just a normal month. I don't see anything particularly remarkable during May at all. And what about temperatures during this period? Where are temperatures going to be during the months? Well, let's just get temperatures on here for you. These are the temperature anomalies. There's February, which you can see it's bringing in as a cold month, and this is this idea of things turning colder in the middle of the month and lasting through for quite some days. So it does try to turn much of Europe colder, much of the UK colder, as it does across much of Scandinavia, look, as well. All our warm weather shifted down towards the southeast. Then for March, well, March comes in at near normal temperatures, and I can entirely see that, because I think we will have a relatively near normal start to the month. I think it could go colder in the middle of the month for 2 or 3 days, but then becomes warmer again after about the 16th. And then for April, well, April comes in at near normal once again, and May is near normal-ish. So, you know, this non too remarkable spell of weather looks as if it's kind of going to be on its way for many of us. And then just a quick sneaky look into June, and again, look, nothing remarkable, too remarkable on there at all, with near normal temperatures. And to me, this sort of makes sense, this idea that we're not going to see anything particularly too exceptional. We're not going to be too far deviating from the mean. That's not to say that we won't get some warm days and some cold days. It's just that it seems to be running through at near normal levels. I think the biggest thing to take from this is the fact that what we could be looking at potentially, if I can get the charts here for you, so what we could be looking at potentially is the idea of near normal conditions through March, but this build of pressure possibly across the west as we head in towards April. And so if we just briefly look at the 200 millibar flow, this will give us an idea as to as to the anomalies, the height anomalies. And this is for February, and you can see on February, look, here's our low of heights that are across Europe during the course of February. Let's just take a look at March. Now this is quite interesting, because during March, look, what we find is that the trough is back out in the Atlantic with a ridge building through the UK. Now I think this is the position from the middle part of March, and this is what's backing up my opinion of this sort of milder, semi-warmer idea late on in March. And then for April, well, April looks as if again, look, we've got these higher than normal heights, so this weak ridge that builds through, and it's this that's bringing the dry weather into western parts. And then for May, well, again, look, we've got the yellows in there, so slightly higher than normal heights, but I still still think these near normal conditions. And for June, again, very similar, near normal conditions. And July, just in case you're interested, well, back to building some very high heights up here. Look up towards the north, where we would find higher pressure up there in the northern parts of Europe, but no real particular low heights down towards the south. So I have the idea that the period from the middle part of June to the early part of July, or mid-June to mid-July particularly, could be one of the better spells of the summer. But just wanted to show you that, give you an idea of what we're looking at the moment. This is the sort of information that we put forward to clients as longer range indications, and the way that it's used is that the client will use it on a week-to-week basis. They'll see how steady the forecast is and then make a decision as to basically how much trust can be placed in that forecast. I think the message to get across to you for now, though, from this is don't panic. It doesn't look as if it's going to be as wet as it was last year. Could it ever be? It looks like conditions are a more benign, more usual, I think is probably the best way to put it. It doesn't look to be too many peaks and troughs in there. And that's not to say we've gone out hot and cold weather, but it doesn't look as if those kind of extremes that we had last year are particularly there. That's not to say it's going to be particularly very marvellous. I don't think it is. I think summer could be mid-June to mid-July, but there doesn't seem to be anything in there at the moment that just scares us too much. So hopefully that's been useful for you, and again, I haven't whittled on too long, but I just thought it's useful for you to take a look at that. For farmers amongst you out there, we do a specialist version of this video as well, and a written forecast that kind of looks in chunks further ahead as to how the weather is developing. We also produce that for retailers, for energy companies, for utility companies, and for parts of the stock market and commodities brokers too. So just to give you an idea of what we do, but I thought you might like to get an insight into that. So sorry for wittering on. Thanks again for watching weatherweb.net. We're kept free of charge by the adverts around the screen. That's what enables me to put these videos together and get them out to you. So once again, thanks for watching, and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.